Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of ET Marketing Jedi podcast series. Today, for our podcast session, we have a very special and esteemed guest, Mr. Achin Sethia, Vice President Marketing at Myntra. Achin looks after the marketing vertical and marketing initiatives spanning across brand, content, loyalty programs, and takes care of the entire digital marketing at Myntra. In his career of over 15 years, Achin comes with a very, very rich experience across e-commerce, media management, consulting, and software development. Achint is also a big space enthusiast and an avid student of human creativity. We're glad to have you, Achint, for our first episode of this podcast series, and welcome once again.
Thank you so much, Rohit. It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay. Okay, so kicking off this conversation, Achin, you come with an extremely rich experience across e-commerce, media, consulting, and software development. So, would love to hear from you about your experience and your journey in the industry, building brand Myntra and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very wide question. I think, I'll just talk about my personal journey first and very quickly, in fact, without taking a lot of time. And brand Myntra building is something I'll anyways talk about during the course of this conversation. I started as a product developer, used to code for Windows operating system. Uh, this was early 2000 when Windows was trying to move its R&D center to India from Redmond, the first R&D center actually outside the US. And a lot of fun experience. And there I realized the importance of how great products can actually create such deep impact on consumers. And that one learning I have taken away throughout my career. I've been very fortunate to get a lot of interesting roles, from looking at very different businesses, including infrastructure, government services, technology, telecom, oil and gas, and so on and so forth as a consultant. And then getting into media and looking at a very different side of the business from a creative angle, working with all sorts of creative folks as well as folks in the business of creativity. And then with Myntra recently, over the last few years, building a really fast growing and agile e-commerce brand at a stage when we faced a lot of headwinds and tailwinds at the same time, owing to the pandemic, as well as how the competition has really scaled up over the last few years in e-commerce given the market opportunity. So it's been a fun experience, and I think my biggest learning and takeaway here has been on to be extremely focused on the customer. And if you do that, it's always possible to adapt and to be able to innovate, and keep an open mind for experimentation, because nothing that I have learned 4 years back or 5 years back is relevant exactly the way it is today. So contexts have changed and they are moving very, very fast. But if you're focused on thinking about consumers on a daily basis, a lot of things actually become much simpler to solve for. So that's where we are right now. I think personally for me, Myntra has been a fantastic journey, and it's a the e-commerce sector has also given us a lot of learnings and taught us a lot of lessons, and some of them I'm very happy to share today on the discussion.
Sure. Yeah, I think sounds like a very, very interesting journey, and I'm sure it's an inspiration to a lot of folks out there. Um, I think couldn't agree to your point more, right? Where great products kind of creating great consumer experience, and Myntra for sure has done that. I am personally like a very loyal customer of Myntra itself. So I think while the ecosystem has evolved a lot, I think Myntra has led some of that change right from the front, leading all of it. So I think that's great, Achint, and I'm sure your journey has been very interesting. So a lot of learnings there for our people who kind of attend the podcast. I'm sure it will be like a great learning for them. So moving on, I wanted to understand your views on advertising in the e-commerce industry. So how do you think advertising in the e-commerce industry has risen to the challenge posed in the recent times? Given a lot has happened in the last 1 year, the ecosystem have changed. I think entire spectrum of how things were happening before and how they're happening now. There has been a drastic shift. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic has taught us many a lesson on adaptability, agility, collaboration, and most importantly, consumer trust building. I think that's been the one big lesson a lot of brands have learned. E-commerce particularly has reinvented itself in many ways to adapt to this challenge. Be it restructuring the merchandise selection basis the evolving customer needs, investing in safety of the workforce, for that matter, putting in internal systems and processes that earlier used to be put on the back burner, in the name of agility. So all of them have come to the front right now. Scaling supply chains has been, a beautiful journey for a lot of e-commerce companies, especially to serve new audiences from across smaller towns. Experimenting with new business models such as omni-channel and how omni and online have come together in this pandemic to win-win for both of them. And I think most importantly, investing in people, in learning and development, given that there was time and there was opportunity to think about people in a very focused manner, and make sure your workforces are motivated as well as they are meaningfully deployed in the right areas, and psychologically happy. And unless they are able to come out of this, everybody was in a very difficult situation. I think it's very hard for business to succeed. So those are some of the things that we have seen. And uh, I would say what would have happened over multiple cycle got crunched in these 6 to 9 months, effectively, across e-commerce companies. Now, if I come to Myntra in particular and share a few nuanced things around what happened in our life cycle in the last 1 year. So we went through, I would say, 4 different phases of learning and evolution. The first was just grappling with the truth. Commerce was shut down in April, and all we had to do was to ensure that we keep our customers meaningfully engaged on the platform, even though they didn't have anything to buy effectively. We accelerated the launch of our content commerce destination, Myntra Studio, bringing fashion inspiration, hacks, and DIY through content that we created in-house, a lot of it, as well as we collaborated with a bunch of influencers. In fact, hundreds of influencers came on the platform and created content to inspire our consumers. Beyond providing engaging and entertaining content, we also helped our consumers with a lot of self-development, from yoga, meditation, and fitness regime content. So a lot of people were still coming on Myntra, even though they didn't have to buy something, because it's also a fun window shopping experience that fashion provides. And they found something meaningful at that point to learn, because Indian audiences are very, very keen on learning about fashion. And that's something we did. That was the first phase. The second phase for us was during Unlock 1.0, which was, just right after the Unlock 1.0, around meeting necessities, as I call this. Here, the focus was on strengthening the selection on a lot of fashion essentials, including comfort wear, inner wear, casuals, along with active wear. People had taken up a lot of fitness regimes. Kids, beauty, and personal care. These are some of the categories that started to see, a lot of uplift just after people came down from the lockdown. And along with making sure the selection was ramped up on these categories, we also invested a lot in safety of our supply chain, safety of the merchandise, and adopting a lot of cutting edge safety practices, across the operations pipeline. That was the second phase. The third phase, that we call, was the revenge spending phase. As the word suggests, people wanted to come back, and buy in bulk, because they had just had a long period of not buying a lot. And for some, it was out of necessity. Their kids had overgrown, and kids grow very fast, as all of us know, right? And for some, it was just fashion also brings a lot of feel good emotion. So they wanted to come back and buy because it was a season. And we said, this season, can we make it the biggest event? It was the first big event in the country after the lockdown. And that was the Myntra end of season sale in June of 2020. And we brought in a lot of value for our customers with very attractive deals on 5,000 plus brands. And boy, I mean, our customers lash onto it. We received love from nearly 35 lakh shoppers, and it really kickstarted the ramp up for us in a big way, along with giving a lot of confidence and assurance to a lot of our brand and seller partners to resume operations and get their workforce back into action. So that was a good signal for the entire industry that, yes, we can kickstart the work. A lot of people got employed eventually who had gone on, a bit of a break because of lockdown. And that really gave the right boost to the fashion industry, particularly. The next phase was, and the last one was the festive season. It was a longer festive season starting, right in early September, end August, early September, and went on this time till mid of November with Diwali. And every brand, wanted to make the best out of it. We did a bunch of things there while we had a fully refreshed brand narrative for Myntra to talk to our audiences in much more contextual ways, given the times at that point. We also did a bunch of innovative partnerships with IPL teams, three of the big IPL teams, including RCB, CSK, and MI. And, and I think for us, it was all about celebrating festive, given there was something to celebrate after a long time for people. Gifting became big, shopping for family, even if you are staying apart, but shopping for family. And for some little occasions you have at that point in time, that came to the forefront. This was the last, big scale up phase for us in the last year. And I think since then, what we have been seeing is there has been a renewal in demand in the industry, and e-commerce, despite a lot of headwinds, has also had this very strong tailwind of people starting to believe in buying online more and more because of the comfort and convenience, at the same time the safety that it offers.
I think I love the way you put it in four simple steps, Sachin, and I think that those were some great insights. I think solving from safety of the customer as well as of safety of your workforce, and then keeping the morale high at all times. I think that was critical, and then I think everyone is waiting for the next sale to come in, right? So I still remember reading one article about how the Myntra first sale after lockdown has kind of surpassed the orders that kind of were there from last year. So I think a great comeback in that way. And I think as we move forward from here, I think it's only going to be higher even from here. I just wanted to follow up on a specific thing, which is while a lot has happened in the last 1 year, right? How do you just wanted to get your thoughts on how do you see the digital shift going in here, which is rise in internet and mobile users? Have you any specific insights that you have in terms of how you have seen the user base growing, the new users coming in, whether it's the old customers as well as are you seeing a lot of new users come in due to the digital increase in digital penetration, etc.?
Yeah, I think definitely that's true. We so again, to give you the larger context, fashion e-commerce is still 5 to 6% of the total fashion industry in the country, right? So there is a long way for us to go from a scale perspective, despite as an individual player being the largest, selling fashion, but it's a highly unorganized sector. And I think for us, there was definitely a positive momentum on customers coming, and mostly customers coming from a lot of smaller towns. It was a resultant of what happened because of the lockdown. Plus, we also made explicit attempt to go and talk to these customers in a big way, make propositions which were relevant to them, make communication which was relevant to them, and also personalize a lot of our marketing strategies that helped us talk to them in much more meaningful ways than ever before. So that was one big shift. And the other interesting trend that we saw is a lot of these customers actually are not low value customers, right? They can compete with the metro customers in terms of the purchase points at which they buy, even in terms of the order value at times, and the frequency of purchases as well, right? So there is enough and more demand, and this pandemic gave us the opportunity to also bring the proposition of Myntra in much smarter and sharper ways to these customers to capture on some of that demand.
Those are some great insights, Sachin. Moving on in our discussion, I think what I wanted to also understand was, with more than now 5,000 plus fashion brands listed on the platform itself, right? And you guys servicing across 27,000 plus pin codes in the country, which is massive.
Yeah.
How is Myntra leveraging the new ad tech trends to stay ahead of the competition and stay ahead of the curve when it comes to shopper experience?
See, this is one of my favorite topics on ad tech piece. There's a lot that's happening here, as we are all aware. But if I look at it from our standpoint, and from a consumer tech brand standpoint, I think there are two big areas which will fundamentally shape a lot of consumer experience and shopper experience, as you talked about. The first is management and effective utilization of first party data for better targeting and for scale reach through sharper lookalike audiences. This has been one of the ongoing endeavors for us. How do we get to larger scale of audiences in every campaign, in every marketing investment, and also be more relevant to them, right? So how do we utilize first party data? And I'll talk more about that, subsequently as well, as to why this has become an imperative now than just a good to have thing. From a Myntra's perspective, we are able to currently segregate consumers in various purchase affinity and performance cohorts. We track these cohort journeys across months and across events, and also the purchase funnel, right from users to the final purchasers. We have in fact invested a lot in our proprietary data platforms as well as systems and processes on data collection. And that is the key. Data collection and reporting investments here, the outcome there is to be able to get these reports at speed and at depth. And I call it, just in time reporting in a way, because the frequency of campaigns, the agility of moving from one to either campaigns requires you to get quick insights and learn from them and sort of deploy them, even within the campaign, the next day or after a couple of days, and definitely across campaigns. So that requires investment in making sure that this data is being analyzed, collected, analyzed, and reported, at that sort of speed. It definitely guides our decisions in effective media planning, whether it's a big campaign or a small campaign. The second one is actually the personalization capabilities, which we have invested in and continue to invest in, because there's still a long way to go for getting to where we want to as an ambition. Today, as we all realize, personalization has sort of become a standard expectation for mature digital customers. And it is also becoming very critical in serving customers who are just entering the funnel with a different need states, and probably in our case, for example, a very different mindset towards fashion. So if you look at India itself as a country, what you show as a collection to someone in Madurai versus someone in Jalandhar is very, very different. Similarly, a mature, loyal customer versus a new e-commerce users, they have to be dealt with very, very differently in terms of exposure to propositions and categories. They can, a new user requires a much more hand-holding and a little bit of a softer push around not overwhelming them with propositions, versus a mature user who needs a very, very sharp articulation and quick decision on how do we move forward with my shopping journey, right? So that is where personalization again comes in and plays a very critical role. This can really lift or underwhelm the shopping experience significantly, I think. So first party data management and utilization as well as personalization, to my mind, are the two big things that we have invested in and that are critical for shoppers' experience.
I think it is definitely a very complex, I would say, problem to solve, right? Where I think, like you mentioned, reaching every customer, the way you reach every customer, the more unique it is, I think the more chances is that the user will be able to relate to the messaging or the product being showcased. So definitely a great and a very complex problem to solve, and great to hear insights in terms of how you're solving it. And also, I think the data is definitely the foundation of all of it, and then leveraging that across platforms or across campaigns definitely helps and kind of helps you target better. So great to hear that, Achint. With brands now moving to the next phase of this discussion, with brands going completely digital, how do you think has the brand audience engagement evolved, given that the market is very competitive, and in this competitive market, how have you and the brand Myntra managed to cut through the clutter when it comes to reaching out to its audience?
Yeah, see, for us, and I think for any brand for that matter, because some of these principles are universal, they are not relevant to just e-commerce, but I will contextualize this with examples from e-commerce. Three things are extremely important, and these three coming together and not being treated in silos. The first and foremost is the brand narrative, what you stand for, and what are the distinct propositions that bring you above a point of parity with competition in consumers' mind, because there is an extreme amount of clutter right now, as we know, from a content perspective. The second is the creative architecture in terms of how different creative assets come together and tell the story in a coherent manner. And the third is the media channel deployment strategy, right? So on the media channel deployment, the first party data management and personalization and better targeting is something I've spoken about. So I'll spend a little bit more time on the first two and helping you appreciate how we think about this. So on the brand narrative first, for an e-commerce marketplace platform, our challenges are very unique, right? We need to be appreciative of individual narratives of hundreds of large and small global and local brands at the same time, right? So we have the Nikes of the world, the Adidas of the world, the H&Ms of the world, and then we also have a lot of homegrown brands who are still very early in their brand development journey. And we can't say things which can counter any of their philosophies. So it's a wide spectrum of consumer communication. That's one. At the same time, we need to be able to stitch a story that is common from Myntra's perspective, and it allows us to stand out from competition, right? So this is the complicated problem that we face every time we think about a brand narrative. This is where we have over-indexed on some of our big platform differentiators, if I may call them, around the shopping experience per se. So the first one is just the ease of shopping. Because we are a platform, I think calling out the platform differentiators really helps us make a very specific and sharp claim to our customers. So on the ease of shopping, we have things like photo search, size and fit assist, and a bunch of other things, which make your shopping journeys very, very easy and your ability to discover what you want much easier. The second piece for us is fashion advisory. I spoke about Myntra Studio, and that's at the helm of it in leading fashion advisory, but we do a lot of fashion advisory through content in general on the platform across the consumer purchase journey and helping you make the right choice. And the last is the unique selection and curation for us, which is again curated, keeping the Indian audiences in mind, keeping the different ethnicities in mind, keeping the mindsets of audiences in mind. While we have all the brands coming in, we can't show them as it is. We have to have relevant models also on how we showcase some of the selection. So all these things have to work hand in hand to simplify and elevate the browsing and shopping experience of the customer. See Myntra's role as an enabler and mentor of sorts, helping its customers discover the fashion of their choice for themselves, rather than us forcing something onto them. We know the consumer is smart. We'll just nudge you, we'll give you the right tools and tips to be able to discover it for yourself. And the way we do it is a combination of providing you the right knowledge about fashion and giving you access to buy that fashion at very, very affordable and valuable price, right? So that's the proposition that we have. And at a Uber level, we see fashion has a very unique role to play in making every special moment memorable in consumer's life. If you remember the last time you had a special moment, you will one way or the other remember what you were wearing or what one of the people in those moments involved were wearing, or how you decided what to wear at that point for that moment. So fashion plays that very subtle role, but it's an important and powerful one. And Myntra's role is to enable its consumers in styling these wonderful moments, right? So that's a space that we talk to our consumers with, but backed by a very, very strong platform differentiators and reasons to believe for the platform. So being very clear on this narrative for the customer is the foremost thing to be able to break the clutter. The second I spoke about is the creative architecture. This is the other very critical part, but it's some often ignored one, as I've seen, talking to some of the other peers and colleagues in the industry. It's not about just building a great ad film or a great print ad or maybe a great wonderful billboard at some point. But it is a right mix of different creative formats across videos, statics, GIFs, everything else, right? Coming together and exposed to consumers to tell a coherent story, a reinforcing story. Each of these actually build on top of each other during the course of a campaign. So what works to drive, for example, app installs could be very different from what builds salience for the brand, could be very different from what builds or drives repeat visits to the platform. So it's very important to be clear upfront as to what is the objective, and then find a creative portfolio or creative assets portfolio that works to your advantage. Then, assuming that this is the standard way of or a one size fits all approach, which doesn't work now in the current digital marketing ecosystem particularly. And what is also important is there is sufficient investment that is planned right in advance on each of these different kinds of assets, because once you put them all in, I think the algorithms will take over and they will make sure that the most efficient ones win the game. But if there are certain creatives which are critical for you to tell the story, you have to reserve sufficient investments for that to give it sufficient scale and the required frequency with the audiences. So it requires meticulous planning and optimization before going into the campaign. In fact, I've always realized that the effort you put in the campaign is equal or lesser than the effort you put before the campaign. And that is where a successful campaign or an unsuccessful campaign actually make the difference. So those are some of the things, that I have seen working very well for us: brand narrative, creative architecture, and then using your data and personalization for effective targeting on a media perspective.
I think couldn't agree more to your point that the effort before create in the creation of the campaign that goes in is much larger than once you just go ahead and kind of run the campaign. So I think the planning of the campaign is very, very critical when it comes to reaching out to your audience. So whether it's targeting or the level of personalization that you bring in, and then second, definitely the creative aspect of it. So great to hear that, and great insights, Sachin, for that. Moving on to the last phase of our conversation is we wanted to understand from you in terms of what's your take on the advertising ad tech space as a whole, right? Where do you think the ad tech space is heading, and how do you think that will affect e-commerce or retail segment in the next 5 years? Given there are a lot of developments happening, where do you see this space heading, and what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, it is always a tough one to crystal ball gaze in the future. This industry is showing very interesting trends. I mean, some of them actually have been talked about for the last many, many years, more than 2 or 3 decades, and still continue to be relevant. At the same time, the context in which they're evolving, at the speed at which they're evolving, is far more than the skill set of people and managers, to take it forward. And that's where I think the challenge lies. But from if you ask me from my perspective, the few trends that I see definitely, and I'm not talking about like 5 or 10 years hence, I think they are relevant here and now and maybe relevant for another few years for sure, and it'll only become more complicated as we move forward. The first one is around data privacy and investments in first-party data management, which I also touched upon earlier. See, we are entering into a cookieless world, as we all know, and explicit human signals will be replaced by probabilistic behavior recognition. You add to that an increasing awareness and appreciation for data privacy, and it becomes imperative for brands to ring fence and secure their first-party data. Requires investments in the right systems and resources, investments in analytical workforce and capabilities, and investments in making sure they talk to the business. And all of these inputs feed into how you think about your marketing and targeting going forward. So this is the first big thing which will become more and more relevant, and consumers will demand for that. Brands will be forced to think about it, and it's important to be prepared for this with the right investments. The second one I think I see is everything that you do with investments in first-party data needs to be complemented with investments in marketing cloud and AI to be able to process this data at scale and speed for just-in-time decision making. Now, this is key in my mind to serving customers, especially when you're talking about scale, while still being relevant through effective personalization. Organizations need to carve out resources and safeguard investments in these capabilities if they want to become smarter and more empathetic. I think it's extremely crucial that there is enough and more time given to understanding what the customer's mind state is and not just the need state, and use AI investments as well as investments in personalization to be able to cater to those through the right, not just the creative strategies, but also the right timing of what you show when to these consumers and what is the sequence in which you show these things. But it again requires building these tech stacks or investing in these tech stacks and working with the right partner ecosystems to be able to get this going for your organization, because it's very hard to build these capabilities in-house for every organization. Partnerships will be extremely critical here. The last one for me is transparency and trust. And that's from both customers and advertisers standpoint to grow the business and improve ROI on ad spends. This is my friendly suggestion to a lot of the advertising platforms who come to us asking for ad monies. And I think a lot of them have very strong propositions when it comes to consumers. But what would help, in getting more confidence in investing is coming up with the right measurement tools, coming up with the right attribution to give confidence to the brands that my money is best utilized, because there is a very different benchmark set by the leaders in the industry on some of those things. And it's important for the upcoming ad platforms, even though they are very large platforms, to be able to match up to that expectation. See, marketing investments will, as I see, continue to come under a lot of scrutiny as the need for scale up shoots across tech platforms, right? You start with the first investment being a perf marketing investment because it gives you immediate ROI. And then you realize as you scale up that, you have to start building a brand. So you start investing in brand and suddenly you realize that, oh shit, I didn't get that much of ROI. And people and your finance department again starts to question, why did you invest in brand and what does brand deliver eventually for you? And it goes into a vicious cycle. And it is not for anybody's fault. It is just the business demand, right? To continue to move towards profitability, but at the same time acquire more customers as you scale up. And therefore, taking care of things like fraud detection and management, making sure the efficiencies, whether it comes to your app install or efficiencies in terms of performance marketing spends for traffic to the platform, these things are invested in parallel. And that is where transparency and trust with the platforms you invest behind becomes extremely crucial for the marketeers to be able to take the right calls for the business. So those are the three, data privacy and first party data management. Number one, investing in cloud and AI. And third is transparency and trust. For me, that has going to be very, very relevant in time to come.
Sure, Achin. So I think, definitely. I think ad platforms here, since, everyone is going digital and with the new wave of digital coming in, I think there is definitely a lot more investment that will go in. But I think from a point of view in terms of what is important for marketers out there, I think, data privacy and then, staying relevant, which is personalization. And definitely the last one, which is trust and transparency, would play a very important part. So those were great insights, Achin. I think that brings us to the end of this discussion. It was great to have you for this podcast, and thank you very, very much for taking out time to join us and sharing insights for our audience out there.
Thank you so much, Rohit. I hope it was helpful and always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Achin.